Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this Women's Spring Summer 25 Fashion Week webinar. Really happy to have you with us. And then we will explain our key insights for this season. But first of all, let's introduce ourselves. So I will start. I'm Noémie Voyer, Fashion Curation Manager at Thematic.
And my name is Frida Tordhag, and I'm a fashion analyst at Thematic.
And my name is Agata Kopriányok, and I'm a senior fashion analyst at Thematic.
So the fashion team watched all the shows for the Fashion Week. So we're going to give you all the insights that you need to have. But first of all, I will give you a short brief on what is the retake and how do we compute our data. So what do? We are quantifying and forecasting the adoption of trends on social media within all the social medias using our AI algorithm. It's for brands to produce better and also reduce the overstock. So basically, how do we proceed? We have to define first a panel of consumers that is segmented in three levels of fashion. We first have the edgy panel, which is the most fashion forward. Then we have the trendy that are also influencing all the rest of the mainstream panel. And the mainstream panel is also very important to have a global overview and understanding of the market. Then we will have to train our module to identify fashion attributes. At Thematic, we can detect more than 2K fashion attributes on millions of images. So it's really important that we constantly improve and have more architectures for have more trends to detect. When we have those trends, we are also able to predict the evolution of the trends with our forecasting algorithm. We are able to predict for plus 12 and plus 24 months. Once we have all this insight, we are plugging them in our platform where you can be able to leverage them per geozone, per gender, per age, and also per level of fashion. So all these insights are what we are going to use to contrast them and compare them with the Fashion Week's data. So today, the fashion analysts, we're going to bring all the insight they have. So it's an extract of our full Fashion Week report. So we analyzed with our module, but also with qualitative watch, all the shows from the Spring Summer 2025. And we're going to compare them with all the real consumers adoption forecast for Spring Summer 2025. It's also important to note that the forecast will be for Europe, for women. So going through all this report, we will have the editor of the season with Frida. Then we will have city spotlights. City spotlights with Agatha is an understanding of the most visible trends per cities. So we will show New York in depth. And it's important also to compare it with a real consumer forecast. Then we will jump into the thematics. So it will be interesting to have an understanding of the two themes we chose to show you today among the 4 that we have detected on the season. And then we will finish with the star trends, which are the trends that are the most visible of the season, but also are the more versatile, meaning that they can be in every aesthetic. So if everyone's ready, let's jump into the editor with Frida.
Yes. So I thought I would give you a quick little overview before we dive into the rest of today's agenda on what we have seen on the runway for SS25. So every new fashion season, we mostly see familiar trends, but they come in new shapes, they come in new forms, they're styled in new ways, in new colors, and so on. So it's not necessarily about coming up with a completely new shape, but more about giving new life to the already existing ones. And one thing that we really have noticed during the SS25 is that this season is playing a lot with contrast and opposites. We've seen a lot of minimalistic looks with like maximalist details and the combination of the more sporty laid backness with the more sophisticated femininity. And one example of this is at both Burberry and Prada. They had a look where the model wore a sequin dress styled with a big oversized anorak in a waterproof material. And here's also an example in how they work with different use of fabric, like sequin together with the waterproof. And in terms of colors, we saw a more autumn-like palette. Even though the collection is for spring-summer 25, we saw a lot of colors like chocolate, brown, hunter green, burgundy red, and so on. And this is a sign how seasonal dressing is fading out more and more. And that is not necessarily because it's spring, that it's pastel that's trending. We also saw some loud, quiet luxury. And what do I mean with that? I mean that designers played a lot with volume and shape. Everything from oversized fits to shoulder enhancement, a lot of ruffles, exaggerated colors. So in general, more like minimalistic looks, but then it was all about the details in terms of unexpected cutouts and different kinds of enhancements. So in summary, the vibe of this season, we would say, is relaxed sophistication and laid back elegance, and an elegance that necessarily doesn't have to look so put together.
Okay. So now that we have a better understanding of the overall season, with Agatha, we're going to have a better understanding of how it translates per city. So as I mentioned before, we do this analysis for the 4 fashion cities, but we're going to show one, which is New York. And what is interesting is that we're going to compare the most visible trends in New York with the forecasted data from real consumer.
That's right. So in New York, we again saw a lot of red. And red has been a standout color for the last couple of seasons, and this spring summer is no different. Designers and consumers love this color in all shapes and forms, from total looks to pop of color with a single accessory like a bag or even just a nail polish. Red was represented in 8% of all New York Fashion Week recognized colors. And as for our forecast, we see 8% growth in consumer adoption in spring 25 versus same period in 24. The color is adopted by all consumer segments, from edgy to mainstream, and with a big magnitude, red seems to be a safe bet for any collection, from luxury to sportswear. And then for fabrics, designers embraced an American icon, denim, that represented 6% of all recognized fabrics during New York Fashion Week. And even though we forecast 5% decline in visibility, denim, with its massive magnitude, will continue to be a key fabric to iterate. And this season with denim, we are going all in with a Canadian tuxedo, so head-to-toe denim look. It can be more sleek and edgy, as proposed by Off-White, very casual, as seen at Coach, or romantic and boho-esque at Rachel Comey. And the list could go on, as denim was really a standout fabric in New York. And on the subject of standout shapes, bubblegum pink dresses made their mark on New York runways with 5% of all recognized dresses. Designers took this playful yet romantic color and played with shapes from dreamy at Alaya to classy at Carolina Herrera. Also, our model sees a 3% growth with a big magnitude. So don't let it fly under the radar, especially for edgy and trendy audiences.
And it's also really interesting to see that pink is still in trend, because we saw so much pink. Hot pink is the Barbie core aesthetic that we could assume that we could be fed up. But actually, this tone of color is really, really appealing.
That's correct. But when you go to our platform and you look at hot pink data, you will see that it's decreasing. So it's important to nail the right shade of pink.
Yeah, I totally agree. So now that we have insight from New York, we can also deep dive into the themes of the season. There will be 2 among the 4. So it's really important to note that this season, even for spring, summer, it was a very formal shows. And also that office wear is still in trend, even if last season we already saw a lot of office core, office siren aesthetic in social medias. And even in the fashion shows, spring, summer 24, we had a team that was named Desk to Date. It was a team of office core, but it was in really, really formal way with a lot of sensuality, sexy, revealing details. So Agatha, what would be the take on this new season for office wear? I guess it's not very demure, isn't it?
It's not. It won't be a demure spring in the office wear. It will be sexy though. So to introduce the first theme from our report, the new grind. The new grind. And the new grind is a reflection of Gen Z as a workforce. There is a common rebellion against the monotony of the 9 to 5. The generation challenges the traditional work environment, and the new grind is a way to express those views, allowing a new generation to reshape corporate culture from the inside out, one edgy outfit at a time. And with more and more companies mandating return to the office, it's not just about dressing for success. It's about challenging the very notion of what success looks like.
Mm.
So this theme, it's about that edgy styling where you match your tailored blazer with an oversized hoodie and you put the hood on to give that I don't care vibe, as seen at Stella McCartney. We can also see a lot of crop tops, a lot of cutouts that highlight a more provocative approach to office wear. So again, sexy. So it's really about that rebellion and individuality whenever it's embodied with sportswear or lingerie.
Okay.
And for the color palette of the theme, we observe pearl that adds a touch of elegance to otherwise edgy looks. We saw it in 38% of the runway collections, and we forecasted 5% increase. We will be seeing a lot of this color in SS25. Next, charcoal gray is the key tone for the theme, makes a great foundation for edgy office looks. But as it's more autumnal shade, we do forecast a decrease of 5% in spring 25. But then we have brown, the color that replaces conservative black in the office wear, whatever our blazers or accessories. And even though brown, again, seems more of an autumnal color, we will see an increased visibility in consumer adoption for spring 25. And as the color has big magnitude and is seen across all consumer segments, and with 19% runway share in SS25, brown has become a must-have for any brand that, as it truly replaces the black.
Mm.
Then, on the terms of key fabrics, we have a mix of traditional office wear staples with a bold interpretation and fabrics so far mostly seen during casual Fridays.
Mm.
We also see a lot of leather and denim full looks that will replace classic suits. Meanwhile, we have poplin that makes the transition from shirts to skirts, bringing its crispiness to a more dynamic form. In terms of data, we already covered denim with New York spotlights, and for leather, we do see a larger decrease in consumer visibility, but the fabric will continue to be adopted on a big scale in all consumer segments. And poplin, as it's a lighter, more summery fabric, is forecasted to increase 5% in spring 25, and is mainly adopted by edgy and trendy audiences. So this mix of fabrics fosters a unique blend of rebellion and sophistication, pushing the boundaries of office attire. And then key prints are again a mix of conventional and rebellion. Pinstripes, a staple of traditional office attire, are reimagined in both edgy and classy shapes, but always styled in a more relaxed manner, blending sophistication with a laid-back attitude. And as we see this trend adopted by edgy and trendy consumers, we can be sure to be seeing a lot of pinstripes in an unexpected executions during spring 25. And the other key print are text and drawing graphics. We often see them on t-shirts, and they make a canvas for self-expression and highlighting your individuality. Easy to throw on, dress up or down for the office and make a statement. So no wonder we're seeing 9% increase in consumer adoption in spring 25 for this trend.
I think it's really interesting to see how the more rebellious or maybe a bit rock codes are infusing into office wear, because it brings really a new take and a new spirit into office wear. So I can't wait to see how it's styled now.
Absolutely. And when we dive deeper into the theme and when we look at these key shapes of the new grind, you might start seeing a pattern. The new grind theme doesn't reject traditional office wear like button-down formal shirts. In fact, it embraces the old and gives it a new identity. So this season, designers showed asymmetrical shapes, lingerie on top of a white crisp button-down, or as Vaquera went for the no pants look, again for that I don't care vibe. Forecast for consumer adoption for spring 25 for formal shirts, it's flat-ish. And over the past seasons, we've been seeing a decreasing interest in this shape. So the trend is classified as a watch out. However, with massive magnitude and adoption in edgy and trendy audiences, we can see formal shirts worn as a statement that redefines the classic workwear staple for the contemporary workplace. And hot pants are not a traditional office look, and this is the essence of the new grind. So this season's designers showcase the versatility of this trend by presenting hot pants in various looks, as seen here by Willy Chavaria, Sakai, or Fendi. And this refreshing take on hot pants redefines the concept of office-ready attire, proving that fun and professionalism can coexist seamlessly. And consumers are embracing this as we forecast 7% growth in spring 2025 for edgy and trendy audiences. And hot pants are also marked as a rising star trend. Then for the last shape, leather outerwear has been a stable, massive trend over the past seasons. And in this theme, it makes a powerful statement. Designers experiment with silhouettes, offering everything from tailored pieces to oversized fits that add a rebellious flair, as seen at Saint Laurent's runway. And leather outerwear not only enhances layering, but also serves as a bold finishing touch for any office look. And lastly, key accessories. Accessories are part of our qualitative trends that we make sure to highlight together with our quantitative trends to give you a 360 view on a theme to best understand the theme's aesthetic. And let's kick off with peep-toe pumps that are the unexpected issue of the theme, making a return to the runway this season. And while some designers like Prada or Stella McCartney stick to the classic shape, others add a modern twist, featuring small cutouts that offer just a glimpse of the toe, like at Tory Burch or Kate. And with this fresh approach, breathes new life into a once controversial style, allowing peep-toe pumps to blend seamlessly with rebellious ensembles.
Yeah, we couldn't have guessed that peep-toe is coming back.
Right? Yeah, the next accessories are knee-high socks that in this theme bridge the gap between grunge, sporty, and preppy styles. And on the runways, this piece is incorporated into every look, from edgy to polished outfits, effortlessly enhancing each aesthetic. Lastly, headwear is a cherry on top, a crown for the rebellious office look. Head accessories take center stage in this theme, showcasing bold choices that redefine traditional office look. From cowboy hats at Moschino to berets at Vaquera, designer selections emphasize individuality and the rebellious spirit of the theme. And again, hoods, as seen at Coach and Stella at McCartney, add a touch of defiance to styling, challenging conventional norms. Additionally, baseball caps provide a well-tested way to inject a casual vibe into any ensemble.
Mm.
And then to finish each theme, so for each theme in our report, you will find a starter pack, a summary of key colors, fabric prints, accessories, and shapes. And we've also selected brands that Spring/Summer 25 collections best embody the theme, or brands that showed many looks around the theme. So this is the new office wear aesthetic for SS25. And personally, same as you, Noemi, I cannot wait to see it come to life next spring.
Yes, I completely love it. And actually, there was something that you said in the intro for this team that was really, really interesting in terms of trend forecasting as well, was that the Gen Z is challenging the very notion of what success looks like. I think it's a very important notion to have in mind, because I think it's going to be a game changer. Same as, the notion of quiet luxury made the perception of luxury evolve. So I think that the redefinition of power codes is really important in this theme. Thank you very much, Agatha. So we saw a lot of formal wear, but sportswear is still in trend for this season. Last season was more about blockcore and blockade aesthetic, which were more rough and maybe more also popular in terms of sports, with the football and soccer jerseys that were mixed with denim, mixed with loafers. So we saw a lot of sportswear and sporty items and silhouettes on this season. But Frida, would you say that this season is more elegant or posh or even preppy?
You know what? I think during 2024, as you mentioned, we had a lot of bloquette and blockcore aesthetics that was more like focusing on relaxed streetwear. But we also had tennis with its obvious tennis core that was more preppy and more quiet luxury. And this theme, the Stadium Ready, which has its influences from baseball and rugby, is the combination of the streetwear and the preppy. It's in the same way as I spoke about in the beginning, that this season is a lot about contrasts and opposites. This theme is, for example, when the top is more preppy and fitted and scholar, while the bottom is more relaxed and oversized and casual. So to properly answer your question, this theme is about preppiness, but not in the obvious way. It's more about the careless preppiness and like laid back preppiness.
Oh, I like it.
So right. And also I think it's interesting because, as you as well said, sports and fashion really dance well together. And this year, for example, Avavav team up with Adidas and the Attico with Nike. And I think this is great examples on how these major sportwear brands want to take attendance at the runway of the luxury fashion houses as well. And it's not a secret that like fashion and sports draws inspiration from each other, and it's like nothing new. But I think that in terms of the aesthetic that is trending is new, like what kind of sport it comes from, like what kind of sport inspiration come from. And previously we've seen a lot of football references, tennis references, and for 2025 we can estimate to see more rugby and baseball references. We also saw it in the SS25 men's fashion week earlier in June. And it seems to be clear now after watching all the women's runway shows as well, that rugby and baseball are stepping into the game. So in terms of colors for this theme, brick red is popular and forecasted to be adopted by the mainstream trendy and edgy consumer, with an increase of +5% compared to spring summer of 24. This means that the actual consumer will be wearing more brick red for SS25. As Agatha mentioned previously, brown has been all over the runway and is really like the new black. And for this theme, the tawny brown is particular being featured on matching sets, as for example, this one from Casablanca that you see on the image. And finally, we got navy for this theme. It is estimated to decrease with -5%. but it also has a big magnitude. And I think in a way that navy overall is like, of course, considered a stable color, but also a color that is more autumn coded for the consumer. And as I mentioned before in the editor, the boundaries of seasonal dressing is really being pushed more. And I really believe that we will see more of an autumn palette for the SS25.
Yes.
So moving further to the fabrics, where one of them is the rainproof fabric that is mostly used for these windbreakers, and these windbreakers have been seen like mostly in oversized fit, together with nylon. And now you perhaps think that you don't see any data for nylon, and that is correct, because at Heritech we're constantly working on developing and improving our models and attributes to add more shapes, fabrics, and colors to our architecture. So we're working on adding nylon as a fabric. And we always work with data as our main priority to back things up, but also the combination of qualitative and quantitative inputs that we see.
Mm-hmm.
So for the last fabric, we got knit, that is in contrast to waterproof and nylon, brings the more polished touch to the collection. And we see knit on mostly the tops in like crop knitwear, in V-neck knitwear, and so on.
Mm.
Overall, we have seen a lot of color block on the runway this season, especially color block in tone to tone, but also contrasted color block, as you see on the image with the t-shirt look from Jill Sander. And according to Heritech's data, the forecasted data, there will be a 6% decrease for the adoption of the consumer, meaning that the actual consumer may not fully adopt to the color block. But it's more print that is really a part of this baseball and rugby theme.
Aesthetic.
Exactly. And also in looks from both Miu Miu and Prada, we saw a lot of like the tone-to-tone color block. We also saw the print of numbers in collections from, for example, Melita Baumeister and Ganni. And Ganni had their premiere show during Paris Fashion Week. And this print numbers obviously gives this feel of like a team uniform, where the numbers symbolizes the player's identity on the field. And finally, we saw the classic horizontal stripes on mostly like rugby sweaters.
So it's really interesting to see how proportion and styling can make it very modern, and the twist is in the details. So it's also very interesting to see how the shapes will be impacted with these new codes.
Fully. Like, for example, the polo shirt, it is something that to this theme brings more like slightly posh vibe and more polished. And this is something, as you mentioned, that with the polo shirt, we now see how it's styled. It's styled like bottom up. It's very, like, it really gives structure to the otherwise more laid back outfits. They are mostly on the runway from shows like Casablanca, Lacoste, very tight fitted, and also like in short sleeve or 3/4 sleeves. We saw in the Prada show, which is like the fourth image, the red one, that it came with long sleeve and like color blocking contrasted colors. And as you may see, it's also estimated to increase with plus 14% and is considered being a rising star. This is a shape that we see for specifically men in many, many years, but it's really starting to become a staple for women as well. And especially for this season, we saw it in more fitted shapes with the bottom closed up and with the contrasted colors.
And what is also important to note is that last season was way more about oversized volume and slouchy volumes, and more this season is more about fitted and polished finishes. So it's really interesting to see how it evolves.
Exactly. But we also have the more not so fitted models. For example, the track pants. And the track pants, especially like the Adidas one that you can see in the first image from the Avava show. It has evolved to something that the fashion-forward consumer wear almost in a way where they know that they're so stylish. So even like a pair of track pants looks very chic on them. And shapes come and go for every season. And for track pants, it's more about finding the modernity of it. On the second image, we see what the Attico did. It's the look with the white track pants. They pair it with heels, with a fitted bodysuit, and an oversized blazer to really give this like on-the-go look to it, even if it wears this like super relaxed track pants to it. Or also Ganni, the red, more oversized track pants with a super oversized tee. And I think that these like track pants evoke the sense of like nonchalance, but in a very charming way. And it's mostly seen being worn by the trendy and edgy consumer, but it's also adopted by the mainstream consumer. So the last shape for this theme is the V-neck. And the V-neck has actually not really been in trend the past year, but it's back on the field, and it's even considered to be a consistent riser. And I think we've been seeing more V-neck thanks to the like quiet luxury, to the preppy aesthetic that is going around lately and will increase as well. It is in the like sporty and chic way as Tommy Hilfiger did. It's the image you see like with the full silhouette. They did it very sporty with the classic like rugby V-neck cut and with the stripes, but they also put it in a cropped knitted model. And the V-neck, of course, has a massive magnitude because it can be adopted in such a big variety. For example, Miu Miu did this fitted red sports top that you see on the third image with like a zip so you can regulate the V-neck. Off-White, like a super more sexy, deep V-neck. And it is just something that like can be very versatile, how you like decide to, like how deep you decide the V-neck to be and so on. And for the accessories, they are fairly easy and relaxed. We have the classic baseball cap that in the same way as the track pants adds a bit of like nonchalant touch to it and gives this like on-the-go look to your outfit. We also have the tie-around jumper that adds extra volume to the outfit. And what we have seen is that you actually wear the tie-around jumper as a proper accessory and not as something you bring with you if you get cold. We've seen it styled especially with the mini skirts and like the hot pants that is quite revealing, that people tend to knit a sweater around their hips to like give an extra like layer and an extra coverage. And this is something that was seen on the runway as well.
And I can add that I've seen this detail as a construction detail on even dresses, like additional sleeves that are just noted as a detail. So yes, I think it's really interesting points.
Yeah, I think so as well. So there we go, the Stadium Ready theme that has its influences from both rugby and baseball and is a combination of the more quiet luxury chicness with the polos and the knits together with the more laid-back track pants. And here again, it is about the contrast and combining preppy elements with the more like sloppy laid-back ones.
I really like this contrast of these bold mixes because we have this cutting edge fashion that infused in sports. I think it really gives a new breath to sportswear. And I think this is where the modernity is. So it's really interesting.
Yeah, I fully agree.
So now that we see 2 of the 4 themes of the season, we can have some insight about the star trends. As I mentioned before, the star trends are these trends that are really visible in among all the collections, but yet can be really versatile depending on the fabric, the prints, or the lengths, or the fits, etc. So we're going to showcase 2 of these star trends today.
So first, we have the strapless dress that has a very promising future for SS25. It is estimated to be adopted by both the edgy and trendy consumer and have an increase of plus 15%. Not only that, it has a massive magnitude as well. And the star trend is specifically not something like that is extravagant or completely new. It is something that we have seen before, and it is more about a shape that is good to include in the collection thanks to its adaptability. We saw on the runway in more like edgy leather, but also more feminine with fringes in shorter medium models or like in the sweeping length. And with this strong increase, and also that is considered to be consistent riser, means also that it is a shape that hasn't been specifically popular lately, but it's like back and it's growing strong.
And another star trend are fringes. And if you only seen one runway show this season, I'm still sure you saw fringes in at least one of the looks, as this detail took center stage on SS25 runway. Our AI model is not yet trained to recognize fringes, so this is another qualitative trend that we are highlighting in this report. And this season, we saw fringes from subtle and sleek to bold and dramatic, as fringe detailing adds dynamic movement to garments, as you could see at Calcaterra layered fringe skirts, and it also adds texture, as you could see in Sport Max's minimalistic white looks. But here there's some more fringe looks, like including designs by Antonio Maras, Gucci, Missoni, and Dior, and each look embodies a unique take on the fringe trend. And in SS25, fringes transcends boho, offering a modern architectural twist on classic fluidity.
So this was the last trend we wanted to showcase today. So it's really interesting to see how this season is in contrast and bold mixes. So we have additional insights and themes on our platforms and on the full report that will be available for our clients on our platform. But you can still, upon request on euritech.com, ask for the short version of this webinar. We are really happy to have you with us today. We hope that this webinar has inspired you and get you some really good insights to leverage for your collection. You can scan here the QR code to request a demo from our sales team that will be delighted to talk with you for what you need. Is it a dedicated report, tailor-made, or is it access to our platform? Do you need any specific geography to zoom in? Do you have interest for Gen Z? So anything you would need for creating your collection, you can have a talk with our sales team. And we are really, really happy that you join us today to talk about Spring Summer 2025. And I want to thank my amazing fashion team. They did an amazing job. So thank you very much.
Thank you everyone for tuning in, but also thank you to Noemi and Agata.
So see you later then. Agatha, do you want like a short note on the end?
Yes, thanks from my side as well. As I am a very new addition to the Euritech, it's been a pleasure to host this webinar with Frida and Noemi.
It was a shared pleasure. So thank you very much.
Pleasure on our side. And thank you again for everyone that's been listening and following us during the webinar.
Yes, thank you very much. I will let this QR code visible, but then I will switch off the camera. So feel free to take your time to scan this QR code. Have a nice evening and see you later. Bye.